Good morning and welcome to another edition of Money Talks here on Radio Kidnappers with Stephen Diedrichs from Taxile, your local national and international accounting practice. So my great gratitude goes out to Ken and Jill and Melanie here at Radio Kidnappers who make me sound and look good, especially on through our social media. You can find Radio Kidnappers and Money Talks through Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, as well as Facebook and the Radio Kidnappers website. So please go have a look. Also, a great special thanks to our sponsors here at Radio Kidnappers. So, as you know, we need money to keep Radio Kidnappers going. So great gratitude go out to our sponsors there. So today we're coming to being Christmas time and December. A lot of people will be thinking about 2021 and New Year's resolutions. So I'm going to talk about that, but with a bit of a slant. And since this is a program called Money Talks, we are going to talk about paying down credit card debt. And I know that many of you will be looking at this and you're listening to this and going, "Oh no, not this again! I'm going to change the station." I suggest that you just stick around because you'll find it's not going to be like any other talks. So some of our comments here I've gleaned from our research through people like Robert and Kim Kiyosaki, Dan Locke, and Mel Robbins. And Gary Vee. So that they are good sources for research. So the first part of today's talk is going to be more about the psychology, and the second part will be just a brief practical application, which I invite you to consider and to take on. Because look, if nothing else has worked in your debt reduction plan yet, you might as well try something new until you find something that works. So let's have a look at how we can reduce our debt. So what we need to do here is look at this on a long-term basis. There's no quick fix. And when we look at things at a long-term basis, we have to look at ourselves and what we do. Because really, if we had enough money to pay all our daily expenses and our debts, it wouldn't be a problem. So, many people out there, lots of people out there just don't have that. So, reducing our debt. First, what we have to do is be honest with ourselves and think about it, and we'll come back to thinking. But really, just be honest with ourselves and go, do we really, really want to reduce our debt? I mean, really? So, and for example, we may be thinking, we can reduce our debt. We go out, say, 3 nights a week and have dinner out, and it's $50 a time. So that's $150 a week, which is about $7,800 per year. We do that. So we may say, okay, we're going to reduce our debt. We are not going out to dinner, or we're only going out twice a week, and there'll be $50 that we can apply to our debt. Or if we just don't go out, there's $150 we can apply to our debt. But before we do that, I suggest that we really sit down and be really honest with ourselves and go, are we really going to do that? Because if we decide that, yep, we're going to do that, we're not going to go out, but then, we may do it for a month, or, let's just say a month, give us the benefit of the doubt there. But we come to the second month and we just don't do it. And then we're going to feel pretty crappy with ourselves and pretty downhearted and feel like we failed. So that's why I say we should just be honest with ourselves and say, okay, look, yes, I want to reduce my debt, but I also want to go out 3 nights a week and spend $50 a time with my friends and have dinner, and that's just what I want to do. And nothing wrong with that. I think it's great. So so we don't have to feel bad when we break that plan. Well, what we then need to do is but we still want to reduce our debt. So then we need to find other ways of how we can do that, and that may just generate an extra $100 to $200 a week or a month. And how else can we do that while we're still going out and having dinner with our friends? Because we want to stay in just stay within ourselves and not be psychologically broken and beat up about it. So that's what we need to do. So another thing we could do in working out how we're going to create that extra $100 or $200 is just look forward to the next 12 months, and we go, it's December 2021. So if you look at it and you go, if you had paid off, say, half your debt or a full credit card, for example, where would that put you? How would that be? Or if you've saved an X amount of dollars in 12 months' time, and if you then think about, okay, if I do this, if I get there in 12 months' time, this is all the things that it's going to give me, and then just start to work backwards and figure out, okay, so this is how what I need to do to get there, while you're still going out 3 times a night with your friends for dinner. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want to do. So yep. So I mentioned before that it's not a quick fix, and that's because the key thing is we don't want to pay off one debt and then things happen and we have to either increase debt somewhere else or just take out a new loan or something like that. So that would be that's just not effective, and it's pretty heartbreaking, I think. So and that's where no quick fix comes into it. And this is where I suggest we look at what else is happening in our world and how adaptable we are. So, for example, I'll use checkout people at any shop. You'll see now that's been replaced with with self-serve checkouts, and also if we look at when we traveled and we are starting to travel again domestically, the check-in is now basically it's self-serve, so there's no more check-in people. Well, not as many of them. So that's looked at, and it's the skills that those people have. The economy has decided that those skills are not valuable. So what we need to look at ourselves is what do we do, what skills do we have, what value do we have. And I mentioned checkout people and check-in people at the airlines, but it's not just limited to that area. For example, in hospitals there are now robots that can do small minor operations or get biopsies. So a robot will do the operation and sitting up there in Auckland, and a doctor will just oversee that everything's still going correct. So even the surgeons are they've got a lifespan on how valuable they will be, because those robots, they are learning every time they do an operation. So it's not just limited to low-level work, but we have to consider our value and what value we are providing to the economy. And this is where we have to be adaptable, and sometimes we could retool ourselves and look at where we can provide more value, and that way it will help us when if things do change in the economy, that we don't have to fall in and go back to our savings, eat through our savings and get more into debt, because this is not a quick fix, it's a long-term game. So that's the key things that we should look at. So we should be adaptable. And I mentioned there, just being adaptable requires some thinking on our part. And thinking is important. I don't think many people do a lot of thinking on this, and I think Dan Locke puts it quite well. But when we think, we have to not just think about superficial things, or think about, why don't I have any money? Why didn't I get a promotion? That's pretty it's pretty downheartening thoughts, because it just leaves you with a bad taste, like, why don't I have any money? Why didn't I get a promotion? You could think, well, it's because I'm not good enough, and people don't value me, they don't like me, I can't make any sales to my customers, my customers don't like me, or that interviewer for that job didn't like me. So it's a question that puts you down. A better question that you may want to ask is how can I make more money? That's a good question. But then, to a certain level, it's also a bit superficial because it's easily answered. How can I make more money? Oh, okay, I can just go and ask the neighbor if I can mow their lawn for $10. You've got more money, or we can go pick apples or something. Then we'll have more money. We could make it more specific to us and not so general. Although there's nothing wrong with going to pick apples. I used to pack cherries when I was studying, and it pays well, but it's long and very boring. So just back to the to the thinking, right? We could think like if we have a business or we're just selling things, it's how can we make more sales? That's a better question than how can we make more money, because now we're focused on making sales. So it's like, what product do you have? How do you improve it? How do you sell it across to people? If we are working for our employer, how do I get a raise? How do I show my employer that I'm more valuable, so that if for example, we have another COVID and the employer has to cut costs, how do you stand out of the rest of the employees as being more valuable? What do you need to do? Do you need to take another class? Do you need to read another book on your industry and where your industry is going, so that you have that knowledge? So that's the type of thinking that that one should do, and it all goes with we're paying off our debt, but we don't want to get ourselves back into this position. So again, it's not a quick fix, it's a long-term game that we're doing. Right, okay, so now the other thing to keep in mind with this, with our thinking, and when we when we decide that we're going to pay off our debts, and let's say, for example, we decided, okay, we're only going to have dinner out with our friends, so once a week, right? So we're going to save $100 and put that towards our debts. Or, for example, we're going to come into work, say an hour, half an hour earlier, and just read up more on our industry or of our work, or just get better prepared for the day. What we're likely to come across is, like if we look at the going out example, we may have our friends tell us, look, we're no longer good for her, you're no longer good enough for us, we're no longer good enough for you, that you're not coming to dinner 3 times a night, you're only coming out once a night. Or fellow colleagues at work may say, why are you coming in early? You're the boss's pet for the month. Comments like that may be passed around to you, and I suggest that we just stick to the plan, because what will happen is that we may decide, I better go out and have another dinner with them, or I'll come in a bit late so that they don't see that I'm early, and we'll stand around at the coffee machine and chat a bit more. So you allow the opinions of others to influence you, and we won't feel 100% happy because of that. And what we may end up doing is justifying why we're not 100% happy, why we're not getting to achieve our goals and things, or pay off our debts, and we justify it by the opinions of others, of keeping other people happy. So I suggest we kind of just stick to the course, and just treat your fellow colleagues and your friends, they're still your friends and your colleagues, well, but more, this is your goal and the way you're going. Because, let's face it, if anything bad is going to happen to you, probably 90% of the people out there is they don't care, and the other percent is, well, I'm glad it's happening to you and not to me. So we got to just stick with it. Because there was another thought I had which just kind of went out of my mind. This is it. So look, it's when we come up with all these things that are going to come up as we try and pay off our debts that we have, and we come up with the opinions of others and other challenges, we may be stuck and not know what to do. I suggest that we sit down and do some thinking again, and think, look, okay, I don't know what to do, but if I did know what to do, what would be my next step? And it's just, okay, if you know what to do next, and then that will trigger our mind to thinking, okay, if we're doing this, then, okay, this is going to be next, and that's going to be next, and all of a sudden we figure out how to get around whatever problem we have and get ourselves back on track. So that's the first psychology part of it. So I hope I'm still going good for time. Yeah, that's our psychology part of paying off our debts. So again, it's being honest with ourselves and deciding what we want, thinking about what we want, and being adaptable to the changes in economies, so that we don't end up paying off our debts, but the economy changes, and then realizing we've got to eat into our savings and go further, go back into debt again, because we don't want that, and then just stick in the course. So now, just a practical way of doing this, and this is something that I picked up from Robert and Kim Kiyosaki during my whilst reading on that. But what we're looking at here is we're specifically focusing on what we call bad debt, and bad debt is debt that's not tax deductible. So, for example, if we have credit cards, personal loans, payday loans, loans from family, car loans, and even the mortgage on the family home it's also a liability. I know people think that the house is an asset, but the definition of an asset is something that brings in income. And yes, house provides you a home and everything, but it doesn't bring you income. A rental property, that does bring you income, so that's an asset. But the house itself doesn't bring you in any income, so it's not within the definition of an asset. I'm not saying don't buy a house or anything like that, right? Just you just have to know what the differences are. That's all, and it's good to know what the differences are, right? So the practical part of this. We're going to write down all our debts and everything, even the money, like I said, you borrowed from family, or so, even people you think that forgot that you owed them money. You write that down because they didn't forget. Okay, so they may not bring it up again, but they didn't forget. So you write all of them down. Okay, so once you've written everything down, right? So we want to know who you owe. What the limit on the cards are, right? What the monthly payment is, and that's it. Okay, and that's the information we need. Then the other thing is get a bookkeeper. I know I'm an accountant, so I'm like saying. It's almost like promoting get an accountant, but get a bookkeeper. The reason for that is you want somebody to that helps keep you honest and keeps you on track. But the one thing to remember is that the bookkeeper is working for you. So most bookkeepers will tell you, okay, let's just pay off all the debts. And yes, that is what you want to do, but that's not the only thing you want to do. You also want to save some money along the way, and also put some aside for investment. The reason for that, if you don't save or put some aside for investment when you have none, when you do have money, you're not going to put any aside either. And also it has to do with psychology, and for those of you that have watched earlier shows, you may have heard me talk about the universe and that. But if you're instilling into yourself the habit of paying off debt, only paying off debt, once you've finished paying off the debt, you're just going to create new debt because you've put that habit into your place of paying off debt. So it's important to also pay yourself first, and I know many of us have heard this before, but pay yourself first, put some aside for investment, and then also pay off our debts. Now, when you work with a bookkeeper, if it's a really good bookkeeper, they will know that and they'll help you with it. Other bookkeepers may just want you to apply all of it to your debt, right? But the bookkeeper is working for you, and so you're in control, and you just stick to your knitting, or stick to the plan, right? It's pay yourself first, savings, investment, and then paying the debts off. So Now, so we got our list, right? And what we're going to do is we'll have the we're going to pay off the smallest debt first, right? And we're not going to look at the interest rates at all. We're just looking at the smallest to the highest dollar value debt that you owe. What this does is that once we pay off the smallest debt first. Now, earlier I spoke about us earning an extra $100 or $200, right? So that's going to go towards paying off the debt also. So say, for example, if we have the smallest debt, the monthly payment is $50, right? And we've managed to earn an extra $100 a week. Maybe in the afternoon we're picking fruit, or I don't know, doing babysitting or cooking for older people. Anything that creates money that's legal. Right. So we take that extra $100 and we add it to the $50 monthly payment until we get the smallest debt paid off. Right. Then all of a sudden we have an extra $150 left that we don't have to use to pay off on that smallest debt. Now the thing, once the smallest debt is paid off, we'll get some momentum, and we feel good because hey, there's one less debt that we have to deal with. So that's great. But now we've got this extra $150, and we go to the second smallest debt. And let's say that second smallest debt is, the monthly payment there is, let's say it's $100, right? So now we're paying that $100, and but keep in mind, as we start this program, while we're paying off the smallest debt, we're also making the minimum payments on all our other debts, right? We're not leaving anything out. When we get to the second smallest debt, and we're paying that monthly minimum of $100, because we now have the extra $150 that came from the very first debt we paid off, we now have $250 to apply to that second smallest debt. That means we can pay that debt off quicker, right? And while we're doing that, we're still paying the minimums on all the other debts. Once that second smallest debt is paid off, we'll have $250 extra, which we can apply to the third smallest, and that way it just continues to grow until we have all our debts paid off. So that's basically how the system works. It's practical. It's in the doing, which is great because we did the psychology. So now we're doing, and we're getting it into our body, and also meet regularly with the bookkeeper. So getting the wind up, and thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here all year, and I wish you all a great Christmas and a happy New Year, and stay safe and drive safe. And this is Stephen Diedrichs from Tax Howell here on Money Talks and Radio Kidnappers. Goodbye.